what we see in most cases is that when we look at important content, important requirements living in documents typically or living in spreadsheets, these are lists of things, and they fall into kind of two different categories. One is kind of the more technical requirements, the requirements around what must happen, what needs to happen. Let's say in an IT context, what performance do we expect in the system? Or in the context of a engineering project, be it road, rail, infrastructure, what is the density of the steel? So these are what you might consider technical requirements. And the controls around technical requirements are typically managed in the context of what's known as a requirements management system. A requirements management system is really a control mechanism by which you itemize all the requirements. You typically categorize them. Something like the density of the steel might be a kind of a structural engineering categorization, whereas the speed of response from an IT system might be an IT-oriented categorization. But regardless, those requirements live typically in a requirements management system. The second type of requirement is a different requirement. It's a more commercial requirement. So whilst we may be building a bridge, we need to make sure that we deliver it in a certain time frame. So that's a kind of a commercial type of requirement. And those requirements tend to be a little bit more orphaned. In other words, they don't tend to wind their way into a kind of a technical system like a requirements management system, which is this quite complex system that engineers love and they're living and breathing in. And by the way, engineers don't have visibility into these more commercial requirements. So that second category requirement, guess where they live? Typically in spreadsheets, typically controlled by a program or project manager. And those requirements are in danger of loose control. What happens when the specification changes? What happens when there's a new amendment made to the particular document by which those requirements have originated from? So what you see there is you see a lot of over and back. You see a lot of risk introduced into the equation. So how we can support this in the context of VT, VisibleThread, is that we will take these unstructured documents containing both types of requirements, the technical requirements and the non-technical requirements, meaning mostly commercial requirements, delivery timeframe, pricing requirements, any kind of reporting, audit requirements. There's a whole list of these things, which they typically won't exist in that requirements management system because it's really fundamentally a technical animal. And those types of requirements we can slice into typically tabular format spreadsheets so that they can be more accurately controlled. And then revision management is easy in that context. So you're posting these spreadsheets typically into something like a shared collaboration environment, like a SharePoint or whatever your choice of such a system is. But really the important point is that you're putting more control on the actual non-technical requirement. So that idea that control is really important, but control is not a kind of an authoritative kind of top-down control. It's more visibility, early visibility into risky stuff. So if you can spot those risks early, control for that, and make sure that the business requirements are adequately controlled, then that makes a big difference to your potential outcome.